Alright, so doing a video on my bike, on all the mods. We're out here at the Brooklyn Bridge Park, Pier 5. It's a pretty nice spot here with the sunset. So that's the Smooth's bike over there. Is my bike, so let me turn off the light here. I had the light on because some people were asking about the bike just now. So let's do a quick walk around here. I'll talk about the mods in a bit, but quick walk around. It's my helmet. Alright, so let's start up at the front here. I have Pro Taper bars. These are basically pit bike / dirt bike bars. Gives a little bit of a rise compared to stock. Stock was kind of a flat bar. It's better for my back. I have lower back problems. So I did change the brake levers. These purple theme, going with my purple theme. I also have grips that I will be changing soon. These grip I put in because I ripped the domino grips that came with the bike, so I just put this in temporarily. This side it's just still has the domino throttle here.
Is it custom made?
I'm sorry?
Is it custom made?
Alright, coming back to the bike, just had another person ask some questions. So let's come back up here. We got a new headlight that I installed a while back. This is just the Amazon headlight. Has a blue DRL. I'll show that in a bit when I show the lights. With this headlight, I also had to, basically I used the stock headlight case with the new headlight. I had to design this trim for the headlight because of that. The stock headlight case did not fit this aftermarket headlight, so I had to design that, and it came out pretty good. Used some RTV silicone to seal it. So I added these 3D printed extensions for the light because I had so many wires back here. I had to, it wouldn't install correctly, so I had to do that. Add these extensions. I replaced the blinkers, the stock blinkers. So I have a blinker here, which acts as a DRL as well, and a blinker down here as well, as same as DRL and blinker. I'll show that in a bit when I do the lights. Same on this side. It's basically just taped on with zip tie, and here's taped on with zip tie as well. I also added some epoxy here because I was afraid it might come off. So I also have these fog lights for added visibility at night. And of course I have this fender here. It's basically a Suron fender. It's bolted on by one bolt, Loctite, and it's pretty secure. Doesn't really move. Coming down here, I have these spoke covers going with my purple theme, and also reflective purple tape on the rim. Coming back up here, we have different control switches. So these are not the stock control switches. This is slightly smaller on this side, not as big as the stock control switch. And the reason why I chose this is because of these bars. These bars are a little shorter in width, so I didn't have enough bar. Well, there's a ferry, I guess, making noise over there. So like I said, I added these control switches because of the bar length was less, so not enough space. See the brakes where they're attached to the bars are kind of really close to the angle, to the radius here on the bars, which is not recommended. So this just gives me enough space to make it so that it's just off the radius slightly, so that the levers are not affected as much. On this side, there's a little bit more space because the throttle is actually adds some space. It takes up a little more space on this side. The throttle is a little longer. On this is just the grips and then the control switch here. And the difference is that this control switch has the more traditional motorcycle type blinker switch where you turn it on and then you push to turn it off. I didn't really like the stock blinkers, which is like a three-way switch. I didn't really like that. So I moved the APT display control buttons up here to easy access. So yeah, coming down here, I have the Pegals. They're great. I'm sure you guys have seen this before. These are awesome. They basically act as pegs, but they can fold out and be used like pedals. So just like pedals, if you need to. I generally don't ride them in pedal mode, very rarely. Maybe if I want to get on a ferry or something, or get on a train or something like that. Pretty much in peg mode, pretty much all the time. One of my newest mods that I added with these LED strips, which I can show in a bit. They're in the back on both sides and in the front as well. I'll show that when I turn the lights on. So I did add this LED strip, which also acts as a blinker. Looks pretty good. I'll turn that on, like I said, when I do the lights. And then back here I added this, or I changed the taillight assembly from stock, which I thought was not very bright in my opinion. Fairly cheap lights on Amazon, very popular because they're cheap and they look nice, very retro. And I'll show them in operation in a bit. I have these brackets that I just taped onto the side here on the frame so I could attach this tank bag, so to speak. Within this tank bag I have charger, accessories and stuff, GoPro mounts and such. So yeah, I also have the rear wheel with the spoke covers and the rim tape. Alright, it's New York. Never a dull moment in New York. Got some police activity. One of the other mods that I did was the external charge port. Get that external charge port. Which is wired in and extended up through here, up and towards the battery, to the charge port, the charge plug. My bike is part of the first batch. It didn't come with the charge port in the back, so I don't have that. Alright, well, I'm back at home. As mentioned, I have the powerful lithium battery. Battery is basically always on. There's no on-off switch for this version of the first gen powerful lithium battery. So when the battery is plugged into the bike would normally be on, meaning the taillights would be on by default, as with the stock battery when you turn on the ignition, right? But in this case, with the first gen powerful lithium battery, everything is just on, right? And because of that, I had to add the light switch, which turns on the lights, the lighting system. And I also had to rewire the ignition switch to enable power to the display and the controller and such. So right now the key switch is off. So if I try to turn on the bike, nothing happens. Right, but if I turn the key to the on position, now there is power from the battery to the display and also to the controller. So and if I turn off the key, it cuts off power. Record the footage of the lighting. I also get some footage of the lighting at night. but here it is during the day. As mentioned, I have this LED strip here. It also acts as a blinker, and I'll show that in a bit. Here are the strobe lights that I mentioned earlier. I pretty much leave it on this mode. It is configurable. There's this little module here that you can adjust it, but I pretty much never change it. Well, never will change it. So I'm okay with leaving it down here. I originally thought I was going to put it up front, but there's really no space. So I'm fine with that. It's all heat shrinked and waterproofed. So there's the back and the front. So I'll show the blinkers here. So ideally I'd want the blinkers to sequence the other way, but because of where the wires for the LED strips they feed into the back, works just as good, so it doesn't really bother me. So when you cancel the blinkers, it goes back to DRL mode. It's very bright, especially at night. Pretty much lights up around the bike. That's the tail light there. It's pretty bright, I'd say. It's a very popular tail light. A lot of e-bikes have it. It's very cheap on Amazon, as I mentioned earlier. Very popular on motorcycles too, as a aftermarket. The front lights, and I'll get a better shot later, but let's just show it here. That's the DRL mode. That's the first tick, and then low beam, and then of course high beam. High beam off, and I'll turn on the fog lights. Pretty good profile. Some will like it, some don't, but it's fine with me. It's definitely different. So, as I mentioned earlier, it's all wired up this light switch. When I turn off the light switch, everything's off. No lights are on. Light switch back on. Since everything's enabled, all the lights come back on. So. I'll insert some footage on how I did it. Got a huge wiring mess here for testing. I have a switch here for the lighting, for the lights. No key connector right now. So this switch is for the lights, and it's all wired up with the relay. Decided to go with the relay. Initially it wasn't going to relay, but decided to. So it's all wired in. Have outputs here. I created 4 outputs, DC outputs. One is going to the fog lights. This one over here is, this one's going to the USB. This USB thingamajig. This other output is going to the fog lights with this switch right here. So let's turn on the light switch. Now the lights are on. the USB thing here. So that's showing voltage from the step down. And then this button for the fog lights. All lights off. All lights back on. So this is gonna go up here somewhere. I'm gonna drill a hole, get this mounted, and get all this wiring cleaned up and tucked in here. Here I'll show the tail light when it's activated, when the brakes are depressed. I have a strobe module attached to it. Low mode, low beam mode, high beam mode. Side view of the lights on with the RL. Blinker enabled. Alright, well it's basically almost dark now. Almost fully dark, but pretty dark. Sun just went down, so get some lighting shots. According to the GoPro, it's pretty much dark. Here the bike is off. And turn on the lights here. try the panels off. That's with the panels off. LED panels off. Still very bright, especially that LED strip on the strobe. LED's back on. Let's turn on the front lights. Forgot about the fog lights. Taillight tests at night. Front light, headlight test from the bike's perspective. So this is with the DRL on. And this is low beam. And then high beam. It's a view of my backyard. High beam off. The fog lights. Fog lights definitely illuminate a lot of the road, and I could use it without the low beam. Even without the RL. The low beam back on. Fog light off. Low beam is good enough for riding. It's very rarely I would use the fog lights. Some future mods for the Xion CyberX bike that I'm working on. A new rear shock. The stock shock is a little too stiff for my taste. I actually have already swapped to another rear shock, but it's the wrong size. I thought the stock shock was 240mm eye to eye, but that's wrong. The stock rear shock is actually 250mm eye to eye and 25mm eye width. I have another one ordered, pending delivery next week or so. Then a custom seat. The stock seat doesn't have enough support for long rides. I also want the seat designed for more storage options. And then that leads into more storage options. Nothing solid yet, just playing with some ideas, and they are dependent on the custom seat. Whenever these get completed or other future mods, I'll try to put up another video on the channel. Thanks for watching.